Hey everyone, here's a quick review of all the parts of a flower. So I've got a poppy here that I found at the farmer's market today, and it's my favorite flower. But it's also a nice representation of an angiosperm because it has all four whorls of those floral parts. So let's start out with one that's younger. This one has a very visible calyx, and the calyx on this one is composed of two fuzzy sepals, and that's going to be the outermost whorl. The next whorl is composed of the corolla, so that's going to be the whorl that is made up of petals, and remember that the petals are there to attract pollinators. Okay, and they will fall off after pollination. And then the next whorl is represented by the andrecium, which is composed of all of these stamens. So these little guys right here, lots and lots of anthers producing lots and lots of pollen. And remember, pollen is basically the male gametophyte of the plant surrounded by sporopollenin. And then in the very inside, we have the floral pistil, which represents the female part of the plant, also called the gynecium. And for the poppy, the pistil is actually really short. The ovary of the poppy can be seen just right there. So it's going to be that basal part of the pistil. And that's where the ovules live. So when these flowers are pollinated, pollen from an anther of another flower will be deposited on the stigma of this flower. Those will form pollen tubes, grow down the length of the very short style in this case, and it will pollinate, or I should say fertilize, the ovules inside. And then once it's all fertilized, these petals will all fall off, and this little middle part, the ovary, will develop into a dry fruit, a dehiscent fruit, which will release little poppy seeds. And yeah, they're the same kind of poppy seeds you might find in a muffin. Let's take a look at some pollen, some poppy pollen under the microscope now. What do you think? Okay, so here we're looking at some anthers under a dissecting scope at about 12 times magnification. We can see the pollen grains sitting on top of those anthers, and you can make out the individual grains. And now we're looking at that same anther under a compound microscope. I've made a wet mount, and we're looking at it here at 200 times magnification. And you can make out those little circular ball-like things. Those are the individual pollen grains that are being produced off the surface of that anther. And now we're looking at just the pollen grains at 100 times magnification using a phase contrast filter. And finally, we have a longitudinal section through the ovary, which has lots of ovules, those little ball-like structures. The ovules produce a female gametophyte, which make eggs that will be fertilized to become seeds.